Hi everyone, it is now our final week of sociology. So we thought we'd do this week is introduce the crime unit to you, so one of our year 2 units. So to tell you a bit about the crime unit then. So the crime unit, the things that we're going to cover, we're going to look at patterns of crime and deviance in regards to social class, gender, ethnicity and age. So we're going to have a look at who's more likely to be criminal, who's more likely to be a victim. And when we're looking at who's more likely to be criminal, we'll have a look at actually, are they more likely to be criminal? Is it actually that they're more likely to be discriminated against by laws, police, and so on? We will also look at measuring crime. So the ones of you that do criminology, you'd have had a look at this in your Unit 1. So we're going to have a look at different ways of measuring it. So we can use police statistics, so actually who they've stopped. We can use the British Crime Survey, which is a victim study. So we ask you if you've been a victim of crime, and also self-report studies. So where you ask people to voluntarily say whether they have committed any crimes or not. And we have a look at why there's a difference between the two. So why will some people not report some crimes and so on. We'll look at definitions of crime and deviance and how they are different. That what we might see as criminal in the UK might not be seen as criminal in America, or vice versa, and how it's also changed over time. We'll look at what we see as deviant and what actually deviancy means. And we'll also look at the media and how the media has a massive impact on who we see as criminal or not. So how they may blow some things out of proportion, how the media makes money off crime, and how we've all bought into this. Think about the amount of crime TV shows there are on places like Netflix and so on. We look at how it labels criminals. And then we need to look at theories in their impact on social policy. So we will have a look at 2 new theories in regards to crime, which is left and right realism. Criminologists, you would have already covered this. But these are actually theories that are practical. And they try and figure out how we actually stop crime. So whereas before it's more theoretical, like your Marxism and functionalism, these theories try and figure out what we should actually do. For the right realism, it's very similar to our new right. So it's this whole idea that we need to stop crime by being really severe in punishment. So we need to bring back the death penalty. We need to make sure that it's you to commit a crime, no matter how small, there should be a consequence for it, and that kind of thing. Left realism is the other approach, and this is the idea that we need to be much more supportive. We need to be spending more money on education and helping people get jobs and so on. So it's much more about supportive measure than punishment. The other theories we'll do functionalism again, Marxism, we'll split into neo-Marxism, interactionist, your labelling idea, postmodern theories of crime, which links a lot back to the media, feminism, and then subcultural is looking at theories that look specifically at subcultures, so young groups of people and why they commit crime. It's a brilliant unit. I love it. It's hard. There is a lot of theory stuff in there, but it definitely, hopefully, will be interesting to all of you. Okay, so how it sits in the course, so where we are, what we've got left to do, that kind of thing. So at the end of our second year, at some point, we will have our exams, and it'll be the 3 papers. So paper 1 is what we've been working at towards this year. Norm would be that we would have this all finished at this point. However, we're not, but it's fine. Bonnie and I have had countless meetings trying to ensure that next year we've got enough time for it all. We have. We figured it out. We've got it all there for you. So don't worry about that. We've already done culture, we've done family, and we've done the theories of education. So when it comes back in September, if we are split like Bonnie and I think, then Bonnie will carry on with the education review, and she will go through gender, class, ethnicity, social policy and education, and those kind of things. We've already done research methods, so that's done. And we will do crime and social inequality next year. So we're looking at, we've probably done 50% of the course. So we've got 50% left to do in year 2, so it's totally fine. There's no issues there. Okay, so we thought we would introduce crime by looking at the police. We spent a lot of time in year 2 on crime, looking at the police and whether they are a sense of good or not, and the issues that come along with the police. As there's been an awful lot about it in the media at the moment, we thought it'd be a good one to finish off. And we also think we need to ensure, as sociology teachers, that we are educating you about the contemporary issues in the world and what we can do about them. So just thinking for yourself then, I want you to think about how you would define the police. How do you see them? What are your views of them? And what has influenced your views? So where do you think those views have come from? Have they come from peers? Have they come from experiences? Have they come from family? Where have you got those views from? And are you viewing the police in a negative way or positive way? Is it from what the media said? And that kind of thing. Right, as sociologists, we find police and policing really important to study in regards to crime and deviance. We look at them as agents of social control. If you think back to culture, we spoke about the agents of social control, and they are formal agents. We will get punished through them. And we look at their role and whether they are from the conflict or consensus perspective. So we look at that from like Marxism, feminism, versus functionalism and new right perspectives. We also look at the impact of the nature of police discretion. So the fact that police might stop you, but they might not charge you even if you are committing a crime. So we think about what ethnic group are they more likely to let off, what social class are they more likely to let off, what gender are they more likely to let off, and why. You can already start thinking about that. So thinking about general life, what we know from a Marxist perspective, we know they're probably more likely to let off the upper class than the middle class. And it's true. The middle class are more likely to be able to negotiate their way out of crime. Thinking back to when we spoke about the elaborated code briefly with Bernstein, they've got that elaborated code, they've got the cultural capital and so on. They're more likely to be able to get away with crime then. There are two broad studies then for police, and it's our consensus policing and our conflict policing. Using your prior knowledge of sociology, I want you to think about what you think consensus policing might mean. And what theory would you link it to? And the same for conflict policing. What do you think that means and what theory might you link it to? So consensus policing then is the idea that the police are coming from the community and they're working for the community. It's all about teamwork and we're all in this together. They are one of us, is the idea. Their presence is always reassuring. They're there to protect us. This is what functioners feel that police will do. As a society, this is kind of what we want. It's a desirable model. We'd like the police to be there for us, but unfortunately, it's not actually the reality which you've seen in the media with recent cases. And not just recently, but for years, we've seen this issue. And this issue isn't necessarily changing. It's not just based in America. There are numerous cases in the UK that we will have a look at as well, and worldwide. Here is an example of consensus policing.
Alright, pull up that, Mr. Officer. Was he skanking? Skanking hard. Are you going to do us another skank, Mr. Officer? He was skanking hard. Mr. Officer, that's what we like. Alright, so come on Instagram, this policeman skank, please. Just Instagram. Wobble, wobble. So fat, all these bitches pissing we got a policeman over there with some moves, though. Oh, he's not fucking fence. He is not fence. He ain't police. He must be an undercover raver. He ain't an undercover officer. Make some noise for the undercover raver! He could never be fence. He could never be 5-0. Wobble, wobble, wobbin'. Ass so fat, all these bitches pussies is poppin'. Go 5-0. Go 5-0.
And here is another example. Right, so as you can see with both of them, it was about the police being part of the community and being one of us. I think the first one ended up on being on Britain's Got Talent, Dancing Policeman. So we've got the Dancing Policeman in Notting Hill Carnival, and then we had the police officer proposing at Pride. So they both show a consensus and a community spirit. What I would like you to do now in your books is summarise consensus and policing, either in words or you could use emojis if you want. Just make sure you understand what it is and the theory it links to, those kind of ideas. So this is the ideal. We want consensus policing. Functioners kind of think we're already there now, that we are all a community and we have social solidarity. Remember those key words, that it's all based on agreement and so on. The majority of sociologists argue that yes, that's the ideal, but we're not there yet. That's not what we have. For a lot of sociologists, then, what we do have and what we're seeing in society at the moment is conflict policing. So this is a view that police are not part of the community, but are a hostile outside force that are there. And it highlights the police brutality, the disproportionate amount of black men that are stopped and searched. And this has led to the movement of Black Lives Matter. And it is, we look at stop and search statistics in the UK, you're 9.5 times more likely to be stopped and searched if you are black in the UK. It rises to 17 times more likely if you are in Dorset. There is a disproportionate amount of stop and searches based on ethnicity. So it's led to the Black Lives Matters group. What I want you to think about then is which theory would view the police as hostile and a tool of oppression? Who thinks it is something that is to repress? And I want you to try and summarise it in words or emojis again. So a bit more about Black Lives Matter. What we'd like you to do is go on to the link and read a bit more about it if you haven't been spending time over the past couple of weeks educating yourself on the movement. It was founded in 2013 and it is based on ensuring equality. It's about trying to intervene in the violence that's inflicted on black communities by the state, by vigilantes. And it's about trying to ensure that everyone understands and educates everyone in black history and that black lives do matter. Okay, this has been in the media a lot recently. And we've seen a lot of protests in the UK, worldwide, in America, leading on from this. George Floyd is unfortunately one of the many, many black men who have been killed by the police. It is not something that just happens in America. It has happened in the UK. You can do the research. You can educate yourself on the fact that it's disproportionately more likely to be black men who die in police custody than any other ethnic group. So it's something that we need to educate ourselves on. It's something that we need to try and tackle as sociologists. What I'd like you to do then, please, is read the article about George Floyd's case. So find out a bit more about him, what actually happened. I haven't included a video on there because it is emotional to watch and some of you may not want to. However, we do need to be aware of what happened. The police officer did lean on his neck for over 8 minutes and stop the circulation of oxygen, which is why he died. And it wasn't just that George Floyd died, he was murdered and they have currently been charged with murder. Not just the police officer that did it, but the other police officers who stood and watched and didn't do anything about it. So read through, find out a bit more about the case, make some notes on it. There has been a massive reaction to the case. It is definitely something that is being spoken about in the public spectre, about Black Lives Matter. We've had statues being taken down. We saw it in Bristol a couple of weeks ago. There's talk of other statues being taken down in regards to slavery. There is talks about trying to change the education system, which links back to education unit. British education is very ethnocentric. We look at it from one ethnic group, and that is the right majority is where it looks from, and actually that ignores so much else about history. When we look at British and the Empire, we tend to look at it more on the positive side through the education system. We look at how we were the heroes in World War II and so on. There is a call and a massive movement at the moment that we need to change that. We need to be actually learning about what happened. To fully understand society now, we need to know about the past. Leading on from that, so reaction, we've had many celebrities publicly comment on George Floyd's murder, the police brutality and the racism. And like I said, not just in America, but worldwide, the racism, and not just in regards to the police, but in every aspect, the institutional racism that goes on within the education system. So let's have a look at a couple of celebrities reacting to George Floyd's murder. Here's Beyonce.
We need justice for George Floyd. We all witnessed his murder in broad daylight. We're broken and we're disgusted. We cannot normalize this pain.
Queen Bey has spoken. Beyonce took to her Instagram to urge her 147 million followers to seek justice for George Floyd, a black man who died after a white police officer pinned him down by the neck.
We need justice for George Floyd. We all witnessed his murder in broad daylight. We're broken and we're disgusted. We cannot normalize this pain. I'm not only speaking to people of color. If you're white, black, brown, or anything in between, I'm sure you feel hopeless by the racism going on in America right now. No more senseless killings of human beings. No more seeing people of color as less than human. We can no longer look away.
The singer went on to say that Floyd is part of our family and humanity, and as a fellow American.
George is all of our family and humanity. He's our family because he's a fellow American. There have been too many times that we've seen these violent killings and no consequences. Yes, someone's been charged, but justice is far from being achieved.
Beyonce captioned her powerful video by pleading fans to sign the petitions on her website, which include Justice for George Floyd on change.org, hashtag Justice for Floyd on act.colorofchange.org, and hashtag We Can't Breathe on wecan'tbreathethenational.org.
Please sign the petition and continue to pray for peace, compassion, and healing for our country. Thank you so much.
Okay, so there's Beyonce there talking about this idea that we can't normalise what is happening in society, that we do need to speak out and make a change. As well as Beyonce then, so in America we've also got the protest in London a couple of weeks ago, and we have the Star Wars actor who played Finn in Star Wars, I want to say in the most recent trilogy.
I need you to understand how painful it is to be reminded every day that your race means nothing. And that isn't the case anymore. That is never the case anymore. We are going to try today. We are a physical representation of our support for George Floyd. We are a physical representation on our support for Sandra Bland. We are a physical representation on our support for Trayvon Martin. We are a physical representation of our support for Stephen Lawrence, for Mark Duggan. Black men, we need to take care of our black women. We need to take care of them. They are ours. They are our hearts. They are our future. We cannot demonize our own. Amen. We are the pillars of the family. Yeah. Imagine this. A nation that is set up with individual families that are thriving, that are healthy, that communicate, that raise their children in love, have a better rate of becoming better human beings. Black lives have always mattered. We have always been important. We have always meant something. We have always succeeded, regardless. And now is the time. I ain't waiting.
During that speech, he mentioned 2 cases from the UK, so Stephen Lawrence and Mark Duggan, that you will speak about more in year 2, but you're welcome to do some research now on both the cases. Like I've said, George Floyd's death, murder, it's not just a one-off. There are so many cases out there you can see now, and there are movements towards ensure that the police officers are charged, that there are changes and there are consequences. And it has been going on for years and years. Rodney King, then, is a much older case. I'd like you to read it and find out a bit about it. Rodney King didn't die. He was beaten to a pulp though by a group of police officers. Police officers stood round, watched it happen. It was an ongoing, it was over a period of time. They just beat him. And no one did anything about it. Not one police officer tried to stop, tried to intervene. Instead, what the police officers did who were watching is they commentated, like at a football match, of a man on the floor being beaten. If you read the article, it tells you a bit more about it. It shows you some pictures of Rodney afterwards. And it speaks about the repercussions for the police officers. There were none. They were acquitted. There was videos of it happening. So there was so much evidence of it happening that they were not charged. They went to court. They got away with it. What happened in the aftermath then were the LA riots. So like we've seen riots in America now after George Floyd, there were riots. It comes from the anger and the frustration that justice does not happen. Which leads on to Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah presents TV programs in America. He speaks about a vast amount of different things, and he's done an awful lot recently in regards to racism in America. And we're going to have a look at a 20-minute episode of him talking about racism in America, him talking about George Floyd, and him talking a bit about the riots and the looting and trying to explain why it's happening. And he speaks about this idea of society, that we sign up as citizens when we're socialising or learning our norms and values. We sign up to the norms and values of society. We think and we say, right, if we follow these laws, then nothing bad will happen to us. Actually, only good things will happen to us. We will achieve, we will flourish, and so on. What he says is happening to Black Americans is they've signed up to it. They will try and follow the rules, but they're still getting punished like they're not. So then it comes to a stage of, we've tried peaceful protest, we've tried to make a change, and nothing is happening. Think about in education. When you're at school, if you didn't do your homework, you would get a detention. So you do your homework, you don't get a detention. What if you were still getting a detention regardless of doing the homework or not? You wouldn't do the homework then, because what's the point? No matter what, you are going to be punished. It's this idea, he speaks about a lot in regards to looting, that looting is not necessarily what Black Americans are doing, but actually it's what historically has happened to Black Americans, has happened to Native Americans. They are being looted every single day. And he covers that and he speaks about it quite well in regards to it. What I'd like you to do is watch the talk. He covers other cases in there too, and I want you to make notes on it. I won't show it all now for you. You can go onto your booklet and you can click on the link there and watch it. So this is just a talk that I want you to watch. Okay, so like I said, he covered other cases in there. So he covered the Amy Cooper case. You may have already heard of. If you haven't, there's a link there. She was the woman who was in the park in New York, Central Park, and a African American asked her to put her dog back on the lead. The dog was off the lead, shouldn't be off the lead, and she somehow decided in her head that she needed to phone up the police, and she started to explain who he was, and she was saying, this African American man is going to hurt me, he's threatening me. He recorded everything. It showed that that is not what happened at all. And what that comes from is racism. She was being racist. She decided to phone the police. She decided to speak about his ethnicity in regards to hoping the police would therefore come and that kind of thing. She's been lost her job because of it, but it needs to be about power. It needs to be about education and so on, about what she did in regards to it. And we also have the other case of Arbery, who was, if you can remember, he was jogging. He went out for a jog, and he was attacked by white men. It was recorded again. Originally, there was no charges. Charges have now been met. But these cases, these 3 cases, have happened in lockdown, and these are the ones that we know about. There have been numerous more cases that have happened that aren't being spoken about, that aren't in the media. And these all highlight then about victims of crime, police brutality, racism within society. We've also got examples of consensus policing within the protests. What I want you to have a look at then is what just clip here. Do you think this is consensus policing? If so, why? If not, well, why do you think this might have been done? Think about cynically. Why have they shown us this? Why is it made attention in the media? And that kind of thing.
A sheriff is gaining attention for what he did at a protest in Flint, Michigan. Take a look at this.
We want to be with y'all for real. So I took my helmet off and laid the batons down. I want to make this a parade, not a protest.
So that is Sheriff Chris Swanson. He stripped off his riot gear and he walked with protesters, and he told us he wanted demonstrators to know he supports them.
You tell us what you need to do.
We walked another mile and a half, and we shook hands and hugged and talked, and you saw this whole tension just dissipating with the crowd. Law enforcement has to come from behind the desk, behind the conference table, behind the podium, and get into the community and talk.
This wasn't just a one-off. In Louisiana, KTAL TV caught this police officer consoling and hugging a young man. This played out yesterday at a Black Lives Matter march in Shreveport, and officers from different departments in Florida took a knee during a Miami area protest in prayer and solidarity with demonstrators. Gail, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Jonathan Capehart tweeted that the video of Sheriff Swanson was, quote, something my heart and soul needed to see.
Mine too. And there was another chief of police, Andy Mills of Santa Cruz. You see that because there's such a difference, guys, between the protesters and the looters. We have to make that distinction and not lose sight of what is happening out there and why it's happening. So for the police to join in with the protesters to say, we're with you, we stand with you, we understand you, is huge. They're focusing on the people who are exposing the pain, not exploiting it. It lifted my heart as well, Vlad.
Okay, finally, the final thing that we want you to think about then is how you can help. So what we'd like to do is have a look at this link here. Look at this link, or there's numerous other links of different things, and read the following headings about educating yourself, what you can read, what you can watch, how you can support Black voices, how maybe you want to donate or write to your MP in regards to it. You can write to the Education Secretary in regards to trying to change the curriculum. There are numerous different things that you can do. And this is an introduction to the crime unit then. So please speak to us on Hangout, email us any questions, any concerns about anything we've raised today. What we'd like to do is just watch these clips, complete the booklet, and really think about what is going on in society. As sociologists, that is our job. We need to have a look at it. We need to figure out how we can change society for the better. Like I said, any questions, any concerns, then please give us an email. Take care, and we will see you soon.